A judge on Saturday threw out Republican Kari Lake's challenge of her defeat in the Arizona governor's race to the Democrat Katie Hobbs, rejecting her claim that problems with ballot printers at some polling places on Election Day were the result of intentional misconduct. The Maricopa County Superior Court Judge, Peter Thompson, who was appointed by then-Republican Governor Jan Brewer, said the court did not find clear and convincing evidence of the widespread misconduct Lake alleged affected the result of the 2022 election. Lake will appeal, she said. Lake's witnesses did not have any personal knowledge of intentional misconduct, the judge said, adding, the court cannot accept speculation or conjecture in place of clear and convincing evidence. Lake, who lost by more than 17,000 votes, was among the most vocal Republican midterm candidates promoting Donald Trump's election fraud lie. While most other election deniers conceded after losing in November, Lake has not. Instead, she asked the judge to either declare her the winner or order a re-vote in Maricopa County. Judge Thompson acknowledged the anger and frustration of voters who were inconvenienced but noted that setting aside the results of an election has never been done in the history of the United States. This court's duty is not solely to incline an ear to public outcry, he said. It is to subject plaintiffs' claims and defendants' actions to the light of the courtroom and scrutiny of the law. Lawyers for Lake focused on problems with ballot printers at some polling places in Maricopa County, home to more than 60% of Arizona voters. The defective printers produced ballots that were too light to be read by on-site tabulators. Lines backed up in some areas, amid confusion. County officials say everyone had a chance to vote and all ballots were counted, since ballots affected by the printers were taken to more sophisticated counters at Elections Department headquarters. They are in the process of investigating the cause of the printer problems. Lake's attorneys claimed the chain of custody for ballots was broken at an off-site facility, where a contractor scans mail ballots to prepare them for processing. They claimed workers put their own mail ballots into the pile, rather than sending their ballots through normal channels, and also that paperwork documenting the transfer of ballots was missing. The county disputes the claim. Lake faced extremely long odds in her challenge, needing to prove not only that misconduct occurred but also that it was intended to deny her victory and did result in the wrong woman being declared the winner. Her attorneys pointed to a witness who examined ballots on behalf of her campaign and discovered 14 that had 19 inches images of the ballot printed on 20 inches paper, meaning the ballots wouldn't be read by a tabulator. The witness insisted someone changed those printer configurations, a claim disputed by elections officials. County officials say the ballot images were slightly smaller as a result of a shrink-to-fit feature being selected on a printer by a tech employee looking for solutions to Election Day issues. They say about 1,200 ballots were affected and that those ballots were duplicated so they could be read and counted. A pollster testified on behalf of Lake, claiming technical problems disenfranchised enough voters that it would have changed the outcome of the race. But an expert called to testify by election officials said there was no evidence to back up the claim that 25,000 to 40,000 people who would normally have voted did not cast ballots as a result of Election Day problems. The BOD printer failures did not actually affect the results of the election, the judge said. Thompson previously dismissed 8 of 10 claims Lake raised in her lawsuit. Among those was the allegation that Hobbs, as Secretary of State, and the Maricopa County Recorder, Stephen Richer, engaged in censorship by flagging social media posts with election misinformation for possible removal by Twitter. Thompson also dismissed Lake's claims of discrimination against Republicans and that mail-in voting procedures are illegal. Hobbs takes office as governor on January 2nd. On Friday, another judge dismissed the Republican Abraham Hamadea's challenge of results in his race against the Democrat Chris Mays for state attorney general. The court concluded that Hamadeh, who finished 511 votes behind Mays and has not conceded, did not prove the errors in vote counting he alleged. A court hearing is scheduled on Thursday to present results of recounts in the races for Attorney General, State Superintendent and a state legislative seat.
Five arrested in fatal shooting of 19-year-old man in Mall of America, police say. 5 people were arrested Saturday in connection with the fatal shooting of a 19-year-old man Friday night inside a Nordstrom store at the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota, authorities said. The shooting prompted a more than 1-hour lockdown of the mall. Bloomington Police Chief Booker Hodges told reporters that an officer heard the gunshots coming from the first floor of the Nordstrom at about 7:50 p.m. local time. The officer responded to find the victim with multiple gunshot wounds. The victim died at the scene despite life-saving efforts, Hodges said. His name was not immediately provided. According to Hodges, surveillance video showed that the shooting appeared to have been precipitated by some kind of altercation between 2 groups of males. One of them then pulled out a gun and opened fire. The jacket of a woman, who Hodges described as an innocent bystander, was also grazed by a bullet. But she was unhurt. About 5 to 7 people ran out of the store following the shooting, Hodges said. The mall was placed on lockdown after the shots were fired, during which customers and employees were asked to remain in the closest secure location. The lockdown was lifted a little after 9 p.m. local time. Hodges reported that authorities executed a search warrant Saturday morning at an address in the nearby city of St. Louis Park, where they arrested 5 people, all ages 17 and 18. He said that police were fairly confident they have the person who was responsible for murdering the victim in custody. Detectives, however, are still trying to locate the murder weapon, Hodges said, adding that they are working to determine if there were other shooters involved in the incident as well. Both Bloomington and St. Louis Park are part of the Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area. This marks the second time in past 5 months the Mall of America has been placed on lockdown due to a shooting. On August 4, near the cash registers of a Nike store, but no injuries occurred. That shooting caused chaos, sending panicked customers and employees running for safety. Hodges said at the time that there had also been an altercation between 2 groups. One of the groups left, but then returned, and one person fired 3 shots into the store, Hodges said. 2 men suspected of being involved in the shooting days later following a multi-agency manhunt. 3 others were also arrested, accused of helping the 2 men escape. The mall began testing the use of it at its north entrance in October, according to CBS Minnesota.
Arizona judge rejects Kari Lake's election challenge and confirms Hobbs' victory. An Arizona judge on Saturday rejected Republican gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake's lawsuit attempting to overturn her defeat, concluding that there wasn't clear or convincing evidence of misconduct, and affirming the victory of Democratic government-elect Katie Hobbs. Lake, who lost to Hobbs by about 17,000 votes in November, sued in an effort to overturn the election. Maricopa County Superior Court Judge Peter Thompson allowed a 2-day trial on some of Lake's claims, which concluded late Thursday afternoon. The court ruling marks a major defeat for Lake, who built her candidacy on her support for former President Donald Trump's lies about widespread election fraud in the 2020 presidential election. She has since falsely claimed to have won last month's election. Saturday's ruling is also the latest blow for election deniers nationwide and harks back to the long stream of legal losses Trump suffered in 2020 as he sought to challenge his election loss. In a tweet after the ruling, Lake, who sat in the courtroom during the trial but did not testify, said she would appeal the decision, for the sake of restoring faith and honesty in our elections. Thompson previously dismissed 8 other counts alleged in Lake's lawsuit prior to trial, ruling that they did not constitute proper grounds for an election contest under Arizona law, even if true. But he permitted Lake an attempt to prove at trial the 2 remaining counts involving printers and the ballot chain of custody in Maricopa County. The county, which spans the Phoenix area and houses a majority of Arizona's population, was a hotbed of unfounded allegations of voter disenfranchisement in the midterms and 2020 election. Technical experts who testified in support of Lake provided analysis that does not nearly approach the degree of precision needed to conclude that the election results were tainted, Thompson said in his ruling. After the election, Lake falsely claimed that a mishap with some printers in Maricopa County was part of a deliberate effort to rig the vote against her. But the judge's ruling noted that Lake's own witness testified before this court that printer failures were largely the result of unforeseen mechanical failure. Every single witness before the court disclaimed any personal knowledge of such misconduct. The court cannot accept speculation or conjecture in place of clear and convincing evidence, Thompson wrote. Maricopa County Board of Supervisors Chairman Bill Gates, a Republican who helps oversee elections, called the ruling a win for Arizona voters and American democracy. Arizona courts have made it clear that frivolous political theater meant to undermine elections will not be tolerated, Gates said in a statement Saturday. That's political malpractice. During the 2-day trial, Lake's legal team broadly criticized Maricopa County's management of the election and claimed that long lines led Republican would-be voters to turn away on Election Day. Tom Liddy, a lawyer for Maricopa County, faulted Lake's campaign and the Arizona Republican Party for casting doubt on the validity of early and mail-in votes, which left GOP voters bearing the brunt of minor issues on Election Day. That's political malpractice, said Liddy, a Republican. You reap what you sow. Maricopa County Elections Co-Director Scott Jarrett detailed the causes of printing problems in some polling places on Election Day that resulted in on-site ballot tabulators being unable to read some ballots. Jarrett said in some printers, toner wasn't dark enough, a problem that resulted in voters whose ballots couldn't be read having to place their ballots in Door 3, a secure box used for ballots that would need to be counted later at a central location. Jarrett said about 17,000 ballots ended up in Door 3 boxes across the county. He also said that at 3 of the county's 223 sites, shrink-to-fit settings were improperly selected on ballot printers by technicians who were attempting to solve those toner problems. That resulted in about 1,300 ballots being printed slightly too small for on-site tabulators to process. Those ballots were later duplicated by hand and then counted, he said. He said he had no reason to believe any of the problems were the result of intentional misconduct. All of those votes, he said, were ultimately counted after they were transferred to a bipartisan duplication board. Lake's legal team has until Monday to respond. Hodges is slated to be inaugurated as governor on January 2nd. This story has been updated with additional details.